Hello and welcome to the Lifting the Iceberg podcast. My name is Tyler James Berger, and on this episode, I talk to filmmaker and self-proclaimed bad animator Danny Casale, aka Coolman Coffeedan. 2 years ago, Danny created a short animation titled Snakes Have Legs, which went on to go viral, getting hundreds of millions of views from people all over the world. We talk about how memes spread in this way, the relationship between the artist and the collective unconscious, and how dreams have played a role in Danny's inspiration and creative process. So, without any further ado, please welcome Danny Casale. Here we are, and I'm sitting here with Coolman Coffeedan, Danny Casale.
In my dungeon.
In your dungeon of a studio, man. It's beautiful in here.
Thank you, bro.
It's good seeing you. I'm really interested in talking to you. We're gonna get deep. On
I can't wait.
Dreams.
Can't wait to do another sip like what I just did. That registered.
There you go.
So well.
Get some coffee. So what I want to open this up with is just the whole story of your Snakes Have Legs video. I was traveling in Europe at the time, and I just had my cell phone on me, and I remember you like putting out that video, and it was different than anything I'd seen you put out before.
And you were following Coolman Coffeedan, my main account.
I believe so.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
like at the time you had done a lot of like live action films, like you did Bye Bye Pumpkin, which was awesome, but you hadn't really put out many animations.
Yeah.
And you put that one out. And I remember messaging you after, like, hey, dude, like, this is really awesome. Like, it's quirky, it's funny, it's, like, resonant. Like, I just really like what you're doing. And then after that, like, I feel like it just exploded in popularity. And I remember just, like, watching it like a phenomenon, like, just through my phone.
Yeah.
And so could you just tell the story of what inspired you to make that video, how it happened, and how the video was received on the internet?
Yeah, well, I started really tinkering with like my style of animation a few months prior, but never really thought that was going to be the quote-unquote claim to fame. I was putting out like an episode of Shape Guys like once every 6 months, and really those kind of just went as far as like a few thousand views on Facebook, and you know, my friends and family and distant aunt like saying good job, this is funny, and that was cool. But Snakes Have Legs was it was like a 3 a.m. idea I had. I just had I imagined this visual that I had while I was brushing my teeth. It was just a late night for no particular reason.
It just came to you.
Just being bored until late into the night, and brushing my teeth, and pictured this green snake with a pink background. I'm like, I don't know, I'm just going to make something out of that. That's a cool drawing. So
did it have any like narrative context?
No narrative at all. And the first draft of it didn't even go into the narrative of stop being dumb on the internet. It just had the narrative of this guy thinking snakes had legs, and then the snake saying, that's some dumb shit, and then it ending after 10 seconds.
Yeah.
But I'm like, oh, this could actually go somewhere like political. How exciting.
Yeah.
And I've never done anything like that before. Thank God I did.
Yeah.
Because
what made you think like this could get political? Like why that?
Because I was like, well, this is really cool. Just like aesthetically, visually, I dug up this old microphone, and I was like I was excited to keep working on this piece. I'm like, how could I extend this piece? And I guess like what was really hot at the time was just fake news, and I was like, a lot of that going on would be awesome to try to make my first relatable meme. Ooh. So I was like, I'm gonna make this a piece about, you know, fake news and not believing everything you read on the internet. So I made it about that, and that extended the dialogue between the yellow character and the snake a little bit, and it turned it into a really solid piece. By the end of it, I was like, oh, cool, like I can't believe that came out of nowhere, but great. And I posted it online, and it sat at a very comfortable like 7,000 view mark on Instagram, and I was happy with that. That was like actually one of my most viewed videos at the time, because I put like $15 in boosting behind it, and like Instagram boosting at the time, I think it's changed since then. You throw a few bucks and you set the right demographic, and you set like the age range, and you set like, you know, topics and themes that people are interested in that would also maybe like your video. So I put like, I don't know, animation, politics. I don't know what I put.
And this is all on Instagram.
This is all on Instagram, mainly supposed to be used by like brands and like local businesses.
Yeah.
But I would use it for, you know, to like get like an extra pair of eyes looking at my stuff. And I have no idea if that has any correlation to it blowing up or not. I think maybe it got in front of the right people. But assuming it didn't, it just really resonated with people. And the people that watched it shared it more. But what really blew it up is a meme page saw it and they posted it, and they had like 500,000 followers, and that blew it up to every other meme page.
So they all share content.
They all just like rip and recycle. It was if people think it was bad now, it's bad now. It was really bad like two years ago, where it's just like the same clip re-uploaded on every meme page, no credit given. And then I found it on ifunny.com, which is like a huge website that we don't talk about, but it's huge.
And you had not put a watermark on it.
I did not think to put a watermark on it.
No, of course not.
And so it was like me like really scared hitting up all these pages for credit in a very polite way. And well, let me backtrack a little bit. It's going viral out of nowhere, and I'm actually home on Long Island with bad Wi-Fi during a rainstorm. And the second I realized that this was blowing up, like before my very eyes, because one of my 2,000 followers at the time just messaged me saying, "Hey, I don't know if you know this, but this big meme page just reposted it." I was trying, like I saw it had like 200,000 views, which was like unreal to me at the time. I never posted a piece of content that ever had that many views, ever, in the 10 years that I've been pushing like YouTube videos and everything. Dude, I ran to my train station on Long Island because I knew they had optimum Wi-Fi in the rain. It was like so cinematic. I'm like running like a 15-minute sprint to the train station. I'm sitting under the awning, the only person there. It's like 7 p.m., getting kind of dark out, just street lit. And I'm refreshing this. I'm like, oh my God, I finally have a viral video. And so there I am, like the summer breeze, the rain, hitting up all these meme pages like, hey, thanks for using this. Would appreciate if you credited me. Then just ensued like chaos. I paid this one Facebook page who was run by like a 13-year-old Venezuelan kid $40 so he would, you know, credit me, because like it went on, that one went on to get like, it's probably at 50 to 80 million views right now.
You had to pay to get your credit to your
just
video.
to get his attention. I'm like, hey, I will pay you. And he's like, oh, how much? You know, like a hustler. I'm like, I don't know, $40. He's like, oh yeah, hell yeah. And I PayPal'd him $40.
Yeah.
But like, if I didn't, like, you know, I would have missed out on hundreds of millions of eyeballs. And it was a very wild west of a beginning for me, because I, you know, it was always the goal, but never in a million years would I have thought it would have been through animation. And there it was happening right before me. And there's no rule book to look to. I was just calling friends. My buddy Lucky was like telling me how I just had to hustle and like change all my profile pictures and rebrand like now. And you know, I had a lot of good people in my life that helped me in that moment. But you know, imagine like you have these people going viral all the time, right? That's never uploaded a video to the internet before.
Yeah.
That's when it's just totally overwhelming, and they're like famous overnight, and they have no idea what to do. So I was set. I was good.
Yeah. Well, there's that saying, it's one thing to want something. It's another thing to be prepared to receive it. So it's almost like you kind of wanted this. You wanted to become a successful filmmaker, whether it be live action or animation, but you weren't even necessarily prepared to receive it. You know, I think that's why you didn't put a watermark on the video, because you had no idea. It's not like you put that video out going, oh, this thing that I thought of at 3 a.m. while brushing my teeth in the bathroom is going to get however many views. How big did it get?
It definitely has hundreds of millions of views, you know, and counting. It still recycles itself around the internet. I also was very lucky at the time. You know, and there's that saying where luck really just means talent plus preparation. But I really do think there was that sense of just like right piece of content at the right time, because of course there was all the turmoil with the political race in the U.S., but it was also very big in Brazil for some reason. There was, I think, some big political stuff happening over there. Also very big in Venezuela, all the stuff that's happening over there, and also just huge in classrooms. I remember like many of the first waves of messages I was getting for that video was from teachers showing it to their kids in the classrooms, because it's probably the most dumbed down version of tackling this really big issue of, you know, internet fake news and fake circulation and propaganda and all that. So yeah, but I forgot the question. So like,
well, I mean, my next question, the question was just like how big it got, you know, and like who was seeing it. What do you think the importance or relevance of it being a minute long was?
Well, in the simplest words, I mean, that was the frame it had to fit in on Instagram, right? Like it had to, I knew it wanted, I didn't even think I was going to end up uploading it anywhere else. I was just uploading it on Instagram. I since uploaded it to YouTube and Facebook and all that, but Instagram only lets like a minute video up there. So I kept it at a minute, which has kind of like been a blessing in disguise, and it's carved the way I make my animations, because there is that 60-second limit on Instagram. Technically now you could go longer with IGTV, but I like how that limited me in the beginning and forced me to pack all the creation into just 60 seconds. So it had to move quick. You had to get to that punchline. You had to be visually engaging from second one, so people would stop scrolling. So I think that's definitely like helped form what the Coolman Coffeedan animations are now, you know.
Well, also you're adapting to the environment of the internet, you know, for a meme to spread. A meme is actually a word that was created by Richard Dawkins, who is an evolutionary biologist, and he defined it as the smallest unit of an idea. So you want an idea to be compressed and small because it travels with less friction between minds.
Wow.
You know, so
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we think the word meme is just this like silly, this word for like silly things on the internet, but it's actually a word from evolutionary biology.
Right. I remember the first time I saw that word, I was like, what's a meme? I don't understand.
A meme.
What is everybody sharing a meme for?
But I'm really interested, like I've done quite a bit of research into this idea of memes, and then even deeper than that, archetypes. But I'm really interested in like how memes spread in society. And the relationship between the artist that makes them. So it seems to me that you pulled something out of the ether from the collective unconscious, because we're in this time of fake news and Trump and CNN, and this is all floating around in the climate of our imagination, and you managed to capture it and distill it into a piece of art, which then spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
You know, like you gave this thing in our collective unconscious a voice. Now, I'm curious about the role between the role of the artist as it relates to the larger collective consciousness of humanity. I often hear stories from artists where artistic ideas just come to them at no hand of their own, kind of like you in the bathroom at 3 a.m. brushing your teeth. And then the art that they create from that becomes deeply resonant with so many people in a way that the artist never intended. This is a recurring story that I hear.
Yeah.
And I think that this points to something. There's something going on here. It points to why the role of the artist is so profound. Now, this is kind of like how I've been thinking about it. Here's a fun fact. So, according to Dr. Bruce Lipton, the subconscious mind can process 20 million bits of information per second, while the conscious mind can only process about 40 bits per second. This means that the subconscious mind can process 500,000 times more than the conscious mind can. Now, I think that the subconscious mind of an artist is constantly making powerful computations about the world, and information from these computations arise and bubble up into our consciousness in the form of creative inspiration. It's like the artist's mind is diagnosing a problem within the environment and expressing it through creativity and
Right.
art. So this is why I think artists are in some part shamans, because art can be a medicine and the artist is the one who's dishing it out. So I've noticed in the evolution of your art too that your work has become more and more medicinal, so to speak, like Blue Dude,
Yeah.
like that little guy telling me to stop watching internet butt videos
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
my shit together, you know?
Right.
And my question is, how consciously or subconsciously are you creating art that aims to be positive and therapeutic in some sense to those who watch it?
Yeah, I think that those videos strike the largest chord out of all of them, which I stumbled upon accidentally as well when I posted my first Blue Dude video, which I posted around the time of the Las Vegas shooting.
Yeah.
Which had me such in a funk. And every time something like that happens, the world gets into a collective funk. And I wanted to put a video out there where a character focused on how the world is mostly good, and wanted to reinforce the idea that although times like this happen and will always happen, unfortunately, the world's mostly good. And I was actually supposed to. I was still in college at the time, and I had class. So I was trying to bang this video out before class. I had this idea of the blue character speaking to the screen and compilation of live action footage, and I had that idea at the gym. So I rushed home to try to finish this
At the
bef-
gym
at
while
the
you're
gym,
exercising.
while I was on the treadmill. Well, yeah. Also because like the screens, all the TV screens were on, just replaying this footage.
Yeah.
And everyone's watching it at the gym, and I'm like, well, this sucks. So I tried to finish this video and get it out to the world before I went to class. And I remember getting home and like I probably started writing the script on my phone before I even got in the door.
Yeah.
And then I finished it up in the kitchen, and I was still like sweaty. I didn't even change. Like I was on like a pure creative binge right then and there. And then I recorded it, and I drew the character, and it started taking on a life of its own. And then I'm like, damn, I have class right now. I have to leave. And I was like, damn, I like the world needs this now. I'm not going to go to class, because I had a little bit of a platform at the time. I had 50,000 followers on Instagram, and I felt like I finally had a little bit of a voice. So I knew that if I got it out there, it would help people. And it couldn't wait a day. It couldn't even wait a few more hours. So
What was it in you that was like had such a strong desire to put that out there?
really it was just this excitement of having that new pedestal and having a voice with and having eyeballs on me. Up until that video, I was probably just classified as a meme page. I think that video is what propelled me into something a little bit more, and that also made me realize that there's more to do here. Because when I posted that, it immediately like blew up. Like with Snakes Have Legs, there was like that week grace period. With this, it was like, dude, it was like the world was waiting for that video then and there, and it
fit the collective.
It fit the collective. It just went viral on Facebook pretty immediately, viral on Instagram pretty immediately. People, it made a lot of people feel better, and then it went beyond pretty way sooner than I would have expected. It went beyond the messaging about it was made for the Las Vegas shooting, but it took on different messaging based on the viewer who watched it. Then I started getting messages about children who, were telling me how they were by their like father's bedside who's like sick with cancer, and they were both watching it together and smiling, and other kids who like lost both their parents recently, and like really tragic stuff that Blue Dude was helping them get through. That reading those messages was what made me realize that there's more happening here, and that unfortunately kids don't have easy access to a therapeutic character. They often don't have someone that they could talk to, or someone telling them positive reinforcement stuff like Blue Dude is. So it's been a while since I posted a Blue Dude video, and I have a lot of people messaging me day to day, like missing him, like, hey, when's the next Blue Dude video? Because as I've come to realize, that's their only source of positivity of a character in their lives where they feel like they could, connect with, which is cool.
It's also so sad.
It's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate that kids don't have someone in their lives that they could talk to, and it's unfortunate that more positivity isn't being shared.
Yeah.
It's mainly unfortunate that the way social media algorithms work is it just kind of pushes the mindless and also the bad. Like when something bad happens, it's everywhere for a while. So it unfortunately caters to negativity more than it does positivity.
Yeah. So, but I'm just so interested in this like kind of innate impulse that some artists have to put out positivity. I mean, you're not thinking about it pragmatically or like kind of rationally or logically. I just feel like you're diagnosing society and putting out some medicine for it,
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. And the reason animations work with tackling such big world issues and big emotions is because I think I have no idea as to why they actually do this, but I think it's because the animation style is so simple, where it almost like puts your guard down when you go into the video. You think you're about to start like watching something dumb, and then it starts tackling like big issues, and you're like, oh damn, I wasn't ready for this, so I like snuck it in. And then like I guess it's been rubbing people the right way. So but the overtly simple style matched with like bigger messaging and more complex dialogue, and there's the dumb dialogue too, but it like does something there.
Bless you.
Excuse me.
Yeah, so the simplicity is part of the success of the vehicle of the content. Now you call yourself a bad animator. I think of you as more of like a low resolution animator. Like
even better.
Yeah. Some of your videos, they're literally just like shapes, colors, like these blobs with 2 eyes, 2 dots, and a line. And that's how you're portraying the narrative. You've shown that something so simple can be so powerful. Something so simple can still get a profound message across, and like, what do you think it is? Like, how can 2 dots and a line underneath be such a powerful way to convey meaning?
Well, I grew up watching Adventure Time, and they were doing very simple colors, simple lines, and tackling like amazing magical adventures and storylines. So I knew that it could be done, but in terms of just like, it's gone as bare minimum as the line and the 2 dots for eyes on my stories and stuff. And people like, I did a story the other day about Andre the Red Ball, and it was just a red ball.
Oh yeah,
with
I love
like,
that.
just 2 dots and a line, and people love Andre the Ball. I think you could build really cool storylines. I mean, if you really want to look at the big picture, you could go back to like cavemen, and they would just like take a rock and a leaf and build an entire mythology around it. You know what I mean? It's more about the story and the creativity and the imagination. The character can be anything. Think sock puppets. It could be anything. But it's mainly like, as long as the storyline's there, I think, you could evoke emotion, you could evoke laughs. It's like shooting a short film, an amazing short film with a shitty camera. That's exactly what, it's been a while. El Mariachi from Rodriguez. He's like the prime example in Hollywood, where he just like had $7,000, went to Mexico and shot a really good film, and it's like low quality, but it's a great story. So, that's like, I don't want to say tale as old as time because that sounds so cliche, but it is. Like with shit like what the cavemen were up to.
Yeah, for sure.
hand shadow puppets. You know.
And you're also using an archetype, the archetype of animism, you know, this idea that everything has life and sentience, even like an object. That's where the word animation comes from. For something to be animated is for something to be filled with life.
Right.
So sometimes just a face is enough for a human mind to look at something as animated, as to have life.
Yeah.
You know, which is why, I mean, people listening to this, if you listen or if you watch Danny's stories on Instagram, like you're often posting just like Wednesday and you're like filming a trash can with like 2 dots and a line on it.
Yeah.
And you look at this trash can and it has a little mood, you know, it has like this little like emotion.
Yeah.
It's almost like an embodiment of an emotion.
Well, I think maybe one of the first forms of that was that caught wide audience by surprise was Castaway with Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
And his bloody hand.
Great example.
Goes on a volleyball, and he names it Wilson, right? And then like they part because they get drifted away by the waves, and he's screaming Wilson, and like all of a sudden like the audience is tearing up over this volleyball. Yeah. Right. It could be applied to anything. You could personify pretty much anything. That's why people get attached to like shit.
Yeah.
You know.
For sure. And yeah, I'm really interested in how you kind of how your animations represent your feelings or emotions or even your dreams, you know, to get back onto the idea of the subconscious, like communicating to the artist through creative inspiration. I think one of the ways that your subconscious mind talks to you is through dreams, you know? So what is the role of your dreams in terms of your creativity?
Well, I think I've definitely had like middle of the night while sleeping this time visualizations where I wake up and sketch something. But most of the time, like I don't even wake up. I often remember it in the morning, or at least I hope I do. There might be like a slew of great $1 million ideas that I've totally forgotten. In that case, keep a notebook by your bedside. Yeah. But dreams are very important. They always have been to me in terms of just wild creativity coming to life, and me being able to have a front row seat, kind of, I guess, without sounding too cocky. You know, like some of my earliest memories that I still remember to this day are just like shit that makes no sense, but were very profound to me. And then like, you know, also like problem solving in my dreams. That happens a lot, but more often than not, it's just like, I think potent stuff that maybe is subconscious during the day, but that comes out in your dreams, and that kind of underlines that it's important when you wake up, if you remember it, you know? For
sure. Yeah, I notice a lot in my own dreams that the content is very informed by what happened that day or what's going to happen the following day. Yeah. You know, this is kind of why I think that the dreams are the language of the subconscious, because like I said before, your subconscious is constantly making computations about your life and trying to scream at you, hey, we crunched the numbers, we analyzed all the variables, you should do this tomorrow, you know, right. or that's what you did wrong yesterday. Right. And sometimes manifesting that in a form of art can be a way to kind of like get a grasp on it, you know, to like put it in a net and understand it. Right. So another thing I wanted to talk to you about, I saw you post, maybe it was like a week or two ago, that you had done this project where you made a drawing every single day. Yeah. And something that I really love about your work and your simplistic characters is that they just seem to be the pure distillations of an emotion. Right. Like it seems sometimes that like you'll feel anger and you'll write a character, or you'll draw a character that is anger. Right. Like you'll feel awkward as the result of like trying to talk to a girl or something, and you'll draw a character that is an embodiment of that feeling. Right. Can Can you tell me more about that whole project that you did?
Yeah, that was, dude, I didn't realize the magnitude of that until I finally just like cleared out my kitchen floor and laid it all out, because I was like, oh my God, like there's so much here. I knew I did a lot, but yeah, no, at the peak of it, I was probably going every day for a good few week stretch, and some would be like coming home like drunk, some would be coming home happy, some would be coming home like pissed off, heartbroken, stressed out, like whatever. It was all capturing an emotion, but with like a simple expo marker line sort of deal. And I think what's super cool about it is there's no duplicates. Like they're all totally different, with like the least amount of detail. And I lay it all out. I take a step back and I look at it like a week ago, and I'm like, most of these I have no idea what was going on in my head. Some of them I do, which is very interesting. They're like hieroglyphics. But that was like a very cool creative challenge that I guess I felt like I needed at the time. It started last summer, and I probably stopped a few months ago. But it was like, very much, it was like word association, except like instead of saying the word that is prompted by another word, you're just sketching something super quick that's prompted by the words going on in your head, whatever those words are. I think that was a very interesting experiment. It was just printing paper and expo markers, if anybody wants to try that at home. But I think quick and easy exercises like that are important, because it takes like 10 seconds. And, writing a journal entry, I understand, could be daunting, and it's easier than going to the gym. So I think a healthy, quick challenge like that is important to try sometimes, even if you just make it up. If you invent one like I did, like that proved itself to be very valuable to me, with the reward of just like laying it all out. I think I do want to go to Union Square or something around here and just like lay them all out, or clip them up on like a string or something, and sell them for like $1 or something.
Yeah.
But I think there's something oddly captivating about them. I do. It's kind of eerie. It's kind of just like a school doodle, but it also carries a little more weight than that. The simplicity, everything that's going on in my animations, it's on those papers. And I guess really the word for it is just raw, something very raw about it.
And how did making those help you process your feelings or emotions?
Just the act of getting your thoughts on paper in some way, shape, or form helps astronomically. Whether it doesn't even have to be something as literal as paper, like writing a journal entry or sketching. It could be just externalizing your thoughts and emotions. It could be like pottery. It could be photography. But that's very important, because it literally like gets it out of you. If you let everything build up, I feel like that's why like, non-creatives like get in such bad moods and explode. Like think the classic businessmen, like alcoholic, right? Like it's important to externalize every emotion, stress and happiness. Like you got to externalize it so you get it out of your body. And there's that classic example of like writing a very angry letter or email and then trashing it, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Yeah.
Like another step of doing that. This is almost like magic, like a magical practice. You write something down, an angry letter, or burn it. Like burning it and watching it burn.
Yeah.
Like that changes the physiological relationship you have with that emotion.
Totally.
I think that's so fascinating.
Totally, man. I mean, it's very important to just get it out there, and it really helps. It really does. I think more people should do it. Although it seems stupid and daunting and all that, I remember thinking like having a diary was like a girly thing to do, but I mean, I've had a journal or a diary now, whatever you want to call it, for years, and I couldn't imagine my life without it,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a piece of art that was accompanied by a feeling that it didn't come from you per se? Like, have you ever been surprised by a piece of art that you made?
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, every time I do something big or bigger than I usually do, I'm just like, how did I do that? I don't know how I put this event that I did in May together. I don't know how I necessarily did that painting that's behind you. You just get into these like flow states. But yeah, I think sometimes if the question's like, does something just come out of me very naturally, and I'm like, wow, what just happened there?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of just the go-to. It's all freehand. Nothing's ever too thought out or scripted. So that's kind of like the norm. But I think of that feeling more when it's just like I like a big chapter closes and I actually have no idea how I carried that out. Like the event, like going to India, like it's just like unreal to me.
Yeah.
Like, thinking back to it, I'm like I really have no idea how I did that.
It's like you're just a passenger.
It really is, because
Yeah.
I think that's a great way of putting it, because I just click into this like, this is all going to go perfectly. There's no other options. Like, sorry, no other options. Like, you're going to do great. And it's just like, I really like being in that state of total nervous wreckness and not showing it. I think that's my natural state. Because like I am very much just a passenger. Like there's no, if I couldn't even imagine doing it where you're in like the control seat, because that would be terrifying. I just go on autopilot and call it a mask or call it like a personality I click into. But I've always loved that. I don't even think like I was ever necessarily bad at that. Well, no, I was definitely bad at that, but it was never like I always. If I had to think back to the first time where I clicked into that sort of state, it was probably when I showed my documentary when I was in high school, and like the whole movie theater in my hometown was booked out with friends and family.
Was that the God documentary?
Yeah. Wow, holy shit, dude, you're good. And I would just like clicked into like showman, you know, here we are, this is gonna go great no matter what, you know. And I think that's healthy. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Now you mentioned flow states, and I'm just really interested in the state that artists get in where they feel like their art is just happening on its own. There's a quote that I really love by a guy named Robert Henry, who wrote a book called The Art Spirit. He says, the object isn't to make art. The object is to be in the state that makes art inevitable.
I like that.
So
I like that.
How do you get into the state where making art is inevitable?
By staying up late,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Because you had the idea for Snakes Have Legs up late at 3 a.m.
Yeah. There's definitely two ways where it's bound to happen. Being up late, which totally ruins my my dreams of being an early bird time and time again. But just something about nighttime has always like held a very interesting time. Or feeling, or it captivates a whole mode.
You're closer to your dreaming mind at night.
Yeah, and like the world around you quiets down, the emails, the texts, something like, you know, if I were to think back and like really go into the psyche, I think that goes back to like me growing up and my whole house being asleep, my whole family of 6 being asleep, and like Long Island, just like crickets outside, and me like editing my YouTube videos like all night long and filming scenes like all night long, and like that probably solidified its like label as like creative hour in my head, you know. Nighttime walks always like therapeutic for me. So there's that, like definitely nighttime it gets creative and emotional no matter what. And when you're emotional is when you get creative. I mean, pretty much. But also just being around people, being around other creatives, especially if you're around people that you're not normally around, like when you're traveling, that always just like spawns pure potent creativity. You know, it could just be like a trip in country, like to California or upstate New York or whatever, or even just going, like taking a different walk to like a different route home, like or like going to a different coffee shop, like change of scene that has people there, whether you talk to them or not, always kind of sparks creativity.
Yeah.
I also like, when you do talk to them, and assuming they're your friends and other creatives that you hang around, that just like is total fodder for me. Talking to creatives that have done more than me, are older than me, have more life experience than me. One of the most crazy times where I felt that was when I had my first meeting with Chantel Martin, and she invited me to her studio, and we're now good friends. But back then I was just like, I didn't feel like I should have even been there. I was a nobody, but she obviously knew that wasn't the case, and invited me as a friend, and I just absorbed everything that she had to tell me about how she came to be what she's doing, and her stories, and her daily routine, and I just eat that all up. Like I love hearing about how other people do what they do. That's always very inspiring to me.
That's why I'm doing this podcast, really.
Hell yeah.
I mean, just being around creative people or people who are successful in any domain, like it informs me so much. Like I've learned things from painters that have helped me become a better parkour athlete.
It's all the same language.
It's all the same language of creative expression and just mining information from other people's minds. Like we're all trying to figure this out, whatever this is, living human life. Like there's so many different ways of approaching it, and everyone has their own unique, amazing way of doing it.
Dude, totally. I mean, you could watch a movie about like Wall Street, and this guy rising to the top and like tackling all of his fears and all the emotions and tribulations that come with it, and like you'll come out of that movie fired up and like apply it to your craft, maybe without like the toxic capitalism or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like it could have nothing to do with your craft, and you could still apply it.
Yeah. So I want to get back to how you used to be more into live action before the whole kind of snakes have legs thing happened. Like when we met, you were doing mostly like live action films.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, what can animation do that live action can't, or vice versa?
I think it's mostly animation can do so much more than live action. The sky is not even the limit in animation. You could have aliens talking. You could have people squashing and stretching. It could take place in space. It could take place in the desert. It could take place on Jupiter. Like, it could take place anywhere. You could also play like 17 different characters, and it's just all me, which you can't necessarily do in live action. Like, so I think the imagination just has more room to play in animation. Not to say that you could do the same in live action. It just takes, I think, more resources. When let's take my Three Cool Aliens series, for example. That was all made with, in my bedroom, like, or in my studio here, like, just me drawing and voicing and all that. Like, I didn't have to travel. I didn't have to shell out money to like do crazy CGI aliens as you would with like live action. If I were to do a live action version of that, I would have to have found a abandoned barn and a farm and 3 actors and more actors and film crew. Like it's a whole different universe. I don't even think it's fair to compare them, but I think when someone has the resources and is able to make the sky the limit in terms of imagination and the world you're able to create with live action. I mean, look at what the Russo brothers did with the Avengers. Like, that is just mind-boggling insane. And it couldn't work as animation because now we know it to be the Avengers live action movie cinematic universe. Now obviously that took billions of dollars.
Those are the most expensive artifacts of our species. Those
100%, 100%.
Yeah.
But if you can do it, I mean, look at the impact it's had on society and culture.
Yeah,
It's mind bending. I mean, that's I think. I wouldn't say it's a goal, but it's definitely more of a dream because I can only imagine like the amount of stress that comes with a gig like that. But I mean, as technology catches up and creativity and technology kind of merge, I think that is like the pinnacle of what's possible. You know, as CGI gets better, as you know, the audiences are more susceptible to buying into these crazy storylines. I mean, here we are like sympathizing with a raccoon from the Avengers, and that's all and well in my book, you know. I totally strayed away from the original question, but
not at all.
It depends on what you're doing and what you want to do. I do think if you're getting started, it's easier to start out with animation, you know, because it just requires less resources, you know, and less money.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the God documentary. Seems like most documentaries are live action.
Right.
What were you doing with the God documentary? What inspired that? Or can you tell us what it was?
Yeah, that was me in high school. I came back from 7 o'clock. Came back from Peru, and I was there for an interesting reason, which I could dive into another time. But really, I came into it
not to do ayahuasca.
Not to do ayahuasca. No, I was there with my pops. We were tagging along. I'm not religious, but we were tagging along with a very religious crew who was helping out the local Peruvian folk in Trujillo, which is the poverty capital. But that's neither here nor there, really. I came back from that trip seeing a whole new side of the world, which is like religion. And, you know, coming from Long Island, there's, you know, like I always knew like my friends would go to like this thing called religion after school. It never made sense to me until I went on that trip. I'm like, this is crazy. Like, obviously, religion means a lot to people. Newsflash. So I wanted to dive into that a little more. I also couldn't cope with the fact of like not having created like a massive piece before I finished high school. Like, that's just what I wanted to do, and I knew what I wanted to do it, and time was coming up close. Like, I was about to graduate in I guess like a year. So I mainly busted that one out in my senior year, and I like this. I explored all realms of religion, man. I interviewed everyone from like pastors to potheads to Buddhists to this one guy was a Taoist psychic priest who spoke to the dead. My grandmother on my mother's side passed away during the filming of that, and I kind of documented that that grieving process, and you know, my mother going through that, and there was a lot going on, and it came out to like a 40-minute piece, which I was very proud of at the time. You know, not to say the longer the better, but it came out to a very clean 40 minutes. And I got the opportunity to screen it at my local movie theater, and I kind of just put word out, and we ended up like selling out the entire movie theater, which was like maybe, I don't know, 100 seats. And then some standing room, and that was like my first like quote unquote sold out gig. And it was family, and it was friends, and it was some people that I didn't even really know. It was really cool. Like, it was like the event of the town for that night, of the quiet Long Island town. And that was like my first like up there with the microphone, presenting my creation, and then taking questions at the end, and sitting there for 40 minutes while everybody takes in what I did. And that changed the game for me and how I see myself, because there's no better feeling than like someone laughing when, you know, like there's that joke lands. That's always great, and experiencing that in the live audience nature. But that was the first time where I heard some crying around me, and that was like, wow, I'm like this is like this is like this is a thing. Like, this is a show for people. There's emotions involved. It's a roller coaster. And it was a very special moment in my life, and I'll never forget it. But that was like the first of its kind for me, man. That was like me working forever on this piece, like 9-10 months straight. Just doing it on my weekends. I didn't have much of a social party life at the time. And it was my pride and joy, and I just kind of screened it. I never put it on YouTube, and I tried to put it in festivals, but it didn't really. It was expensive just to apply. But it changed my self-perception and the perception of the game that I'm playing in the world that I find myself in of content creation, and that's valuable.
What were some of your conclusions from that documentary? Like, what? So, how about this for one of the final
Did
questions?
I ever show you it?
I think Josh and I watched it.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Josh, because didn't Josh, our mutual friend Josh, he helped you film it.
Josh helped me film, like a few interviews.
Yeah.
Like, he helped me film the interview that I interviewed a homeless guy.
Yeah,
At Washington Square Park, and that was like very. Well, also what that documentary did is it gave me an excuse to talk to people, which is tough. Talking to strangers is tough, man.
Yeah.
So once you get a camera involved in a question as broad as like, what is religion to you, or what is God to you, that opened up so many windows, and I was just able to talk to people, which is what, like, I was definitely lacking at that point in my life, was talking to new people outside of Long Island and all that. And I talked to that homeless dude for like a half hour straight, 40 minutes straight, and that was very eye-opening, just hearing this voice that you don't normally hear.
After that whole experience, what role do you think religion plays in the human experience?
At the end of that whole thing, I kind of came to the conclusion that every religion has this same idea of God, and they're all this deity, this idea that keeps everybody in line, keeps society happy, encourages you to be good, and if you be bad, there's punishment. And it also kind of lends of someone to talk to whenever, and it keeps everybody sane. It keeps like society sane. It keeps society happy. Keeps society running, and that's important. There's extremists on all sides of religion of every single type, and that's, I guess, just a product of how it is. Anything could be taken too far by anybody. But that was very interesting to me, because by like the fifth interview, I was like, everyone's talking about the same thing here. This is all the same thing, and
there's a common thread.
There's a sense of irony because people are bombing each other for different ideas of the same thing. But even like the kids that I would interview on the sidewalks, like these skaters, I would be like, who is God? And they'd be like, I don't know, but it gives some people somebody to believe in. Just, yeah, that's true. Everybody has their own idea, right? And I think when I think to my personal like experience, I'm not religious. I don't I'm not subscribed to any religion in particular, but I am very comforted, and I like to believe that there's a greater something out there. I like to believe that there's a certain energy. I like to believe that there's some sort of something keeping this whole universe together. And I find comfort in that. And I think at the end of the day, that's what religion is. It's comfort in the unknown. It would kind of suck to just be running around not sure like how grass came to be. Like, that's terrifying. Like, what is a tree? What is an elephant? Jesus Christ, this is terrifying. I like to think there's like some sort of plan here, Yeah.
Well, you're creating a bunch of little deities and a bunch of little gods in all your characters. Maybe in the future there's going to be a church of Blue Dude.
Oh, dude, I would love it. I would fund the hell out of that.
Yeah, there you go.
That's great.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap it up.
Cool.
Danny, thank you so much for doing this. Where can people find out more about you? Where can people watch the God documentary? Is that still up?
That's not up, but who knows? Maybe I'll upload it sometime soon.
Yeah.
Now that I have people watching me finally. But you can find me on Instagram at Coolman Coffeedan. I'm on Facebook at that same name. I'm on YouTube, Danny Casale. You could type me in wherever and you'll find my stuff.
Cool. Danny, thank you for lifting the iceberg.
Tyler, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks again for listening to the Lifting the Iceberg podcast. You can stay up to date on any new podcasts by following Lifting the Iceberg on Instagram and Facebook, or by going to liftingtheiceberg.com. This podcast is available for download on the website, as well as on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Thank you to Alexa Spaddy for designing the graphics for this podcast. You can find her at alexaspaddy.com. Thank you to Kerusu for the soundtrack Stay With Me. You can find Kerusu on YouTube, Spotify, and Soundcloud.